And folks, when it comes to having a missional heart, when it comes to having the heart of God towards the mission of seeing people come to know Jesus, one of the things I think we need to be vigilant, to kind of keep a constant watch over, is to come to God and say, God, where's my heart? Where's my attitude? Show me any ways in which I may have an unloving attitude. Because here's the reality. A judgmental attitude will always, always separate us from the very people that the Father sent His Son to die for. And so the first action we need to take in developing God's heart is we need to just evaluate our attitudes. The second action is this. I think we see this in the story. In order to develop God's heart, is we need to intensify our search. We need to intensify our search. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, it's very interesting. In this story, I already mentioned that part of what's going on is the religious leaders were looking at who Jesus was spending time with, and they were muttering. They were complaining indignantly. And it was kind of this idea, really what was going on, is why in the world would you be spending time with those people? Why would you be doing that? And Jesus knew that, and so He answered their question in the same way that He does many times. He didn't just come out and say, well, this is why, with 3 points. He told them a story. In fact, He told them 3 stories. And I think we don't have time to look at all those in detail this morning, but I do think it's important that we have the context. He's saying, listen, here's why. I want to tell you why I'm here spending time with these people. And then He told them 3 stories. The story of the lost sheep, which we're looking at a little more closely this morning. The story of the lost coin. And then finally the story of the lost son. And that's all of Luke 15. It's those 3 stories. Now, it's very interesting when you start to look at each of those stories. They all have several things in common. But one of them is this. In every single story, something that is of incredible worth to its owner is lost and they can't find it. In the story of the lost sheep, it's that sheep. And the shepherd who has 100 sheep, 99 of them are safe. But one has wandered away, and he's not satisfied that just 99 are safe. He looks and he has an incredible heart for that one lost sheep. And what does he do? He launches an intense, all-out search in order to find it. The story of the lost coin is really the story of a woman that doesn't have much. And she has lost basically 1/10 of her life savings, is what many scholars think this passage is talking about. In those days it would have been called a drachma, which represented a day's labor. And so 1 day's labor, if her whole life savings is 10 days' labor, then one of those coins is worth a lot to her. And so what does she do? I mean, it's worth so much. She launches an intense search, and what the story says is basically she turns the house upside down. You know, sometimes we do that in our house with a remote control or keys or something like that. It's valuable. And man, we even get the whole family searching for it sometimes. But you can turn the house upside down. That's what she's doing. In the third story, it's a different kind of search because it's a father, as many of us know, whose young son has turned his back on his dad. He's turned his back on God. He's asked for his inheritance early, which would have been a huge offense in this culture. It basically would have been saying to his dad, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm disowning you. And the story says he goes off and squanders all of his wealth in wild living. And you know, this is a different kind of search. The dad isn't out there physically trying to find his son. It's more of that kind of search that maybe some of us can relate to, where in his heart, he's just hoping. He's hoping that there will be that day, and he's looking that day where that lost son that he loves so much will somehow come to his senses, which the story eventually says he does, but will somehow come to his senses, and that someday he'll see him over the horizon. And he never gives up hope. That's his kind of search. And so we have this story, and the reason I'm talking about intensifying our search is basically what Jesus is saying is this. In fact, I want us to look at this in verses 3 through 4 in the story of the lost sheep. It says, Then Jesus told them this parable. Look at this. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Now look at how he's saying, this is how you would respond to that if that happened. Does he not leave the 99 in the open country and go after even if it was just one, the lost sheep until he finds it? And basically what Jesus was saying to them is the reason I'm spending time with them is because they are so incredibly valuable to the Father that He sent me in an all-out, intense search to bring them back home.